Hey guys and girls, welcome back to my channel Fox Green. In this video we're going to be talking about something very different, and that is, what is joule creep and why does it occur? You might notice that this topic comes up a lot in threads and forums where people discuss things like why guns should be measured in joules over FPS and all that, and that is true, but this video is going to help you as an airsofter understand joule creep and why it occurs. Now, out of all the airsofters out there, I'd say only about 20% of people actually know what joule creep is, and out of that 20%, I'd say only about 1% of people know why it really occurs. So this video is going to take you through it, because for our sport, as you know, it's illegal in some countries. It's such a precious thing to us, and really understanding joule creep is extremely important, because you might be cheating or using an overpowered gun on the field without realizing it. So this video will really take you through it, make you understand it, and I'm going to be doing that with a pen and paper, and I'm just going to take you through it in simple terms. I'll get a little bit into the maths behind it, but it'll be very basic. Trust me, I'll knock it all down, and trust me, I'll make it as basic as I possibly can. So one thing you might know about me is I'm an engineer, so this concept of joule creep, when I first heard about it, really interested me. One of the things I would have learnt in college is that you cannot create or destroy energy, right? This is called the first law of thermodynamics, and essentially what it means is energy cannot be created or destroyed. It has to be transformed from one form to another. And joule creep is very strange, because if you have a gun that works, all the energy comes from a spring, and you're shooting that gun with 0.2 gram BBs, for instance, right? When you shoot that gun, it'll read a certain amount of joules. But the interesting thing is, without changing anything inside the gun, if you then put in just a heavier BB, you get an increase in energy, an increase in joules, which is very strange because, as I said, you cannot create energy, right? So to understand it, when I go through this with you, it'll be so simple, and it'll completely click in your head. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is just a simple equation, right? Force equals mass times acceleration. This is one of Newton's laws, right? So force equals mass times acceleration. One way you could look at this is, right, force is a unit of energy, so you could look at that as something like joules. Mass could be the weight of your BB, right? And acceleration could be your FPS, or your feet per second, right? Now, the reason why this is interesting, right, is in Newton's law, right, as I said, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. But this equation, essentially what it means is the force acting on an object is equal to the mass of that object times its acceleration, right? So that's very important, because what we've got is, we've got a force which is created by the spring in your gun. We've got a mass, and that force is acting on that mass, which is your BB, and then you've got an acceleration which is created by that force, which is the velocity of that BB when it leaves the barrel, right? So joules, right, a better equation for joules, right, so this is quite important, but a better equation for joules is, joules are actually equal to a half times mass, again, right, times velocity squared, right? So if we had an example here, a quick example, right? So you could have a half times 0.2 gram BB times, say if when we chronoed it came out at just like example 359 feet per second, right? FPS. Now, the thing to know about this is, right, in this equation, this is actually done in kilograms and this is done in meters per second, right? So you can convert, if we convert this to kilograms, right, it's equal to a half times, right, we all know there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so that becomes 0.0002 times, and if you look this up in Google, if you convert feet per second to meters per second, that will be somewhere around the region of 109 feet per second, right, or meters per second. Now, if you work this out, and that's meant to be squared, so if you work that out, you'll get somewhere in the region of 1.2 joules. So as you can see, right, to work out joules, that's actually how you work them out. That's very simple, right? But what we want to discuss, right, is joule creep. So say our gun is shooting 0.2 gram BBs now, right? and you shoot it, say it comes out at 328 FPS, right? That equals 1 joule, so right? So 1 joule is actually equal to 328 feet per second, measured using a 0.2 gram BB, right? If we use a heavier BB, what will effectively happen, right, is the FPS will reduce. But in theory, because you cannot create or destroy energy and nothing has been changed in the gun, it should still equal 1 joule, but it doesn't, right? This is why it's so mind-boggling, right? Like, changing the weight of the BB, you should just reduce this, and when the equation is completed, it should equal 1 joule, right? Because the equation's balanced, it'll always balance, right? But it doesn't. And the reason for that is something interesting is going on, right? And there's another equation, right? I'll talk you through the equation very quick, and then I'll explain it in a very simple way, right? Flow rate, right? So flow rate is measured is Q, right? Which is generally meters cubed per second. So the volume of something, volume is always cubed, flowing through something per second. So Q, that's the flow, is equal to velocity times area, right? This is where it gets interesting. So if you take a very simple real world scenario like a hose, a garden hose, right? And you have a constant flow of water coming through it. It's coming out at a nice stream, it's continually coming out, and if you then go to stick your finger over the top of it, the energy pushing that water out isn't changing, right? It's the same energy, but that water now, because you reduce the cross-sectional area of the end of the hose by covering half it, the only way that water can come out is by increasing in speed, right? Increasing in speed and pressure, right? Now, if you think about what we have in an airsoft gun, right? We have the spring, it never changes, right? Nothing inside the gun changes, you're only changing the weight of BB. The first thing we do, what is the first thing we do when you put a heavier BB in our gun? We adjust our hop up. Now, if you look at the barrel of our guns, right, in cross section, right, we've got our little nub up here, and say that's the amount of hop you need to shoot your 0.2 gram nice and flat. Well, as soon as we put in our 0.3 gram BB, right, we're going to have to give it more hop. So this area in here, right, this area has now reduced. However, the volume of air coming down the barrel is still the same volume of air created by the spring, which its strength hasn't changed, right? The spring is the same, and the volume of air now passing this point is the same. So what happens to air? The air needs to get past that point because it's been pushed by the same force, and in order for it to get past that point, it has to speed up. That's the key, right? It has to speed up, just like getting the hose and putting your finger on the end of it. Same pressure is pushing through. In order for that to come out, it needs to speed up. Your velocity increases, and when your velocity increases, so if you now have, if your FPS up here now is faster, if this guy is now faster, and this is heavier because you put that in the chronograph, you are getting a higher joule rate, right? So all that, as I said, all it is you're reducing the cross-sectional area. The same volume of air has to pass that point, and because of that, the only way it can do that is to speed up. It needs to go through it much quicker, and that's why you're getting an increased speed, an increased velocity on a heavier BB, which in turn makes it creep in joules, right? So as you can see, look, this is the main reason why we're getting joule creep in our guns, right? But the good thing is, right, some guns, you know, if you're getting a lot of joule creep in your gun by increasing the weight of your BB, right, that just means, guys, when you go on site, right, you need to have your gun tuned to the highest weight BB you're going to use to be legal, right? So if you like to use 0.3 gram BBs, right, and the law in your country is you can have 2.3 joules, right, then you need to make sure that you're getting those 2.3 joules on the weight BB you use, right? If you're getting 2.3 joules on a BB you don't use, like a 0.2 gram BB, as soon as you put in the weight that you're actually going to use on the day, it's going to be up. It's going to be up to 20% increase in power, right? So I know in the UK and some countries what you guys do is your site has their own 0.2 gram BBs, and they say your gun needs to come in at 500 FPS on 0.2 gram BBs, which is 2.3 joules, right? For you snipers out there. And that's all, that really needs to be gotten rid of, because as soon as you pass your chrono with your 0.2 gram BBs, which, you know, and for a lot of you out there, you don't realize it, that you're making this mistake, but as soon as you're done chroning your 0.2 gram BBs, you're going to put in your 4s, your 4.8s, 4.5s, or whatever you use. And if you actually fire the 4.8 through that chronograph and change the BB weight to that, you'll see that your joules would be so much higher. You'll be up around 2.5, 2.6 joules, right? So you're technically over your country's legal limit. Same in Ireland, where all our guns are 1 joule. In order to make sure I don't break this rule, I always only use 2 weights, either 0.3s or 0.32s, right? I will bring my 0.32s or my 0.3s if it's less windy up to the chronograph, to the marshal, and I'll say I'm using these BBs only, right? I'm not going to use any heavier anyway, because I'll start losing range if I do. So that's the max you can really use with 1 joule. And you'll chrono with that, and my gun will come in at 0.99 of a joule, right? Because that's how I set my spring to that weight BB. I have not set my spring to a 0.2 gram BB weight. And you shouldn't do it either. 0.2 grams need to be chucked out the door. And chronoing in joules is the only way forward. FPS, you don't want to be dealing with FPS. A very simple reason is, right, a joule incorporates the 2 things. It incorporates the weight of the BB and the speed that BB is going through the air, right? If you took something like a feather super light, right, and you shot that at someone at 2,000 feet per second, right, it's not going to hurt you, right? And the reason being is because it's light. Although you might think, oh Jesus, 2,000 feet per second, that's so fast, you know? But that's why FPS should not be used on its own, right? FPS on its own doesn't give you the whole picture. As I said, you can shoot a bloody feather at 2,000 FPS, but because the feather is so light, it's not going to do you any harm. But that's why if you took the weight of the feather and you looked at the FPS, you'll find out that it comes in at something completely negligible altogether. And to take it a step further, when you look into the maths behind it, so not only the weight of it and how fast it's going, but the area of it when it hits. So if you have something point you're hitting with that force, the force on that point is much greater. But if you had something flat traveling at the same speed and weight, it's now spread over a large area. That's why Novert says that his larger BBs in your full thrust system, right? It's still only going 2.3 joules, but it's a larger area. It's got more weight behind it, sure, but the area makes up for the fact that it's spread out over a larger area, and it's still, again, when you look at it, it's still the same joules, guys, right? So that's why he's kind of saying, it's safer, and he's right. It has to be, right? It's maths. It actually has to be. There's no alternative. He is right in what he's saying. So look, as you can see, guys, right? Chrono your guns in joules on the heaviest BB you're going to use. Don't use the 0.2s, right? Because you won't know you're breaking the law, but next thing you'll be caught and you'll be kicked off the site for good. It's really important. And it's not only that, you see these videos, guys popping BBs out of their skin, out of their cheeks and stuff. Those BBs are fired by people that didn't understand joule creep. They thought their gun was safe. They thought, I was using 0.2 gram BBs. They went through the chrono at 490 FPS. All's good. I'm totally over the law. But no, you're not, because what did you do? You stuck your 0.3s or your 0.4s in, and your gun is actually now about 20% over the legal law limit. So I hope this kind of whole analogy about the hose and the cross-sectional area, that's the main reason why it happens, in my opinion, right? You reduce the area by applying more hop. The same volume of air by the same spring needs to get past that air. Only way it can do it is increasing the velocity. The weight of the BB is the weight of the BB, so joules go up. ways to avoid this, right? If your gun is dual creeping a lot, as I said, the hop up nub, right? In a lot of guns, it's just a very sudden little bump. Let me just draw this for you, okay? In a lot of guns, if you look at your barrel, the nub is a sudden bump. You might have heard of flat hop, right? Now, a flat hop is, if we draw another barrel down here, a flat hop is like a nub, but it's over a longer area, right? Slightly longer area. The beauty about this is, right, this doesn't have to stick as far down into the barrel because it's longer, the BB is in contact with it longer, giving more spin to the BB, whereas in this one it tends to stick down more because the BB only is applied over, the effect of it is only applied over the BB for a split second, whereas it's applied for a lot longer in this. So in this you tend to have your nub sticking a lot further down into the barrel than you do in a flat hop. And because this is not sticking as far down into the barrel, you're not reducing the cross-section area as much, and in turn you're getting less dual creep, right? So flat hopping, R hopping, all of that is better. SSG actually has, my SSG has this type of a hop up, right? It's not a flat or R hop type one. It's a very good gun, but it dual creeps like crap, and like if I wasn't chronoing on the actual weight BB I use, I would be breaking every law out there. So it's very important that you guys know this, right? Take it back with you. As I said, it'll ensure that you stick to the law. It's something that everyone needs to know, really, right? Like, I know getting into maths and stuff are boring for a lot of you, but I'm sick of kind of looking at forums and looking at people saying, oh, why is this and why is that? This is the reason why. It gets a lot more in-depth than this. I've done this very basic, like you can go way down into the maths and get a lot deeper into it, but this is just the simple stuff, but it's enough for you to understand it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been interesting doing it, and as always guys, right, if you like my videos, please subscribe and hit that notifications button, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya. Peace out.